No.
Well, yeah, you were rehearsing a song to
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, you are.
start singing. Yeah, you were.
What was
I'm
it?
never going to rehearse
Go on, Hayley. Go on. Don't mind.
I don't sing.
You do.
Why not?
You were singing upstairs.
I wasn't singing
I think you
upstairs.
were. That's what I heard when I went up. It was beautiful.
That's a filthy lie.
It was a beautiful, beautiful song. What was it called? Snap? What?
Oh, Slee's not snappy.
That was it, yeah.
Slee's not
What are you on
snappy.
about?
Haley's a fantastic singer, and she's
We'll get a song out of you.
I am horrendous. I have the worst voice ever. I had a pet hamster for years, and he'd travel with me in the car, like if I was going overnight somewhere.
Yeah.
We were friends. I didn't want to leave him. And if I ever started singing in the car with the music on, just without even thinking, and the hamster was out, he'd look at me and be like, oh my God.
Hello.
And he'd be gone back in his little house,
yeah.
like buried deep down.
That bad.
Yeah, like really, even the hamster knew how bad I was.
And animals can hear, can they? Better than humans.
He would honestly look at me in this with this look of disgust and just be like, I'm off, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
When
So,
when I used to start singing in the kitchen, the boxer dogs, they used to just go.
Not again. Not again.
Put their heads down. Yeah. That's what they did.
Yeah, so this week we're joined by Sinead Gleeson, who I've never met before. I wanted to ask first of all about your jacket. What's the story of your jacket? It's a lovely jacket.
Well, I was always into a bit of kind of vintage stuff, so I bought it for a £5 in a charity shop in London.
No way.
And I found it in the bag when I came back to Thurles this time.
Which part of London?
I think Hackney. Good spot. I think it was Brick Lane.
Oh,
yeah.
Brick Lane's
Yeah,
amazing.
great for vintage
And
stuff.
what is it? Is it like the Royal
It's like a
Navy?
sailor kind of,
That's
yeah.
class.
Yeah.
So you're not
£5.
you're not in the Navy.
Not in the Navy, and my mother hates it.
I love it.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
cool.
I love it.
We
Yeah.
used to wear old
class.
school blazers
Yeah.
from the charity shops
There you
when I
go.
was about 25.
That's it. I used to buy a lot of stuff like that just because, well, you never find it anywhere else.
No, you
So,
won't.
Yeah.
And it's cheap.
My theory with charity shops, what I realise as well, like, yeah, because you're only ever going to get, not always, you do get some pennies clothes and stuff like that, but often you're going to get really high quality stuff because people are willing to just throw out cheap pennies t-shirts, but like when people have paid for stuff, like I'm not letting this go to waste. And what I've noticed as well, I talked about this on the podcast before, my secret is if you want the really good stuff, like colourful, like cool stuff, I'd go to towns where they're very boring.
Yeah.
They're all getting rid of their cool
That's
stuff.
good.
Like,
Good
and
strategy.
Like where did I found loads of really cool stuff, and I'm not saying Carrick-on-Shore is boring, but I'm
But
saying
you
they
are.
have very
Disclaimer.
good stuff in their charity shops.
Oh, wow.
And most
One man's trash is another man's treasure, isn't it?
yeah,
They say?
definitely, yeah.
Speaking of school blazers, what was it you were telling me before about going to the pod or something?
Oh yeah.
What is it?
Well,
What is it?
I was just kind of reminiscing about my wild days and my kind of brazenness, I guess. And yeah, I think being born in Thurles town, I mean, we always were linked. We could get out of here very quickly.
We were linked with Bowness.
We were linked with Balness, and we were linked with the Thurles train station, which got us to Dublin very quickly. And yeah, I remember being 15 and just having no shame going up to the pod and standing there dressed like an 18-year-old, and they let us in. Yeah, me and my friend.
What age were you?
So
15.
why is the pod?
Pod would have been like,
The
I guess,
nightclub, wouldn't
yeah,
it?
biggest
Okay.
nightclub, I guess, in Dublin. Like it was called.
is that owned by
Crawdaddy.
Pod? The
Same people. John
Same
Reynolds.
people.
Same John,
yeah,
was
yeah.
it?
So
Yeah.
I guess that's
Cool.
why I don't even want to show my age, but yeah, God,
St. John of
25
Pod.
years ago now.
Pod.
35 years ago.
Something like that.
25.
They're,
25.
I remember like all the pop
Extraordinary.
stars and stuff used to hang out with
Yeah.
the pod at that time, didn't they?
Yeah, and we had just said no, kind of like, oh, it wasn't a case of like we shouldn't be doing that. It was
What
like,
did you
why
do?
wouldn't we be doing that?
And what
You know,
did
that
you
kind of
just tell your mother you were staying over in your friend's house? or
Yeah,
something?
well, I have family in Dublin, so
Yeah.
I think we probably went up and said we were going to like something we went shopping in Dublin. That's what we were doing. We were going shopping in Dublin, and then would have gone out and went back to my aunt's house. Maybe they weren't there at the time or something. There was probably a reason, but yeah, we had no shame
It
whatsoever.
was good. Yeah, it was worth.
Brilliant, yeah. I mean, we felt like we were adults, really, and we weren't. And when I think about it now, God, it's kind of scary.
15, yeah.
Yeah.
We always used to go to clubs because I lived quite close to Birmingham. That was the age that people
Yeah.
started going to
Same in
clubs. And
Thurles
it was,
as well. I mean, we had been going out since we
Yeah.
were kind of 15, 16 anyway.
it's quite different now,
Yeah.
I think.
It is, yeah.
Well,
I
I
think
mean,
that-
I guess you can get arrested now for having people underage on your property.
But I think
Yeah.
they're a lot more up on the ID stuff.
Yes.
Like nobody ever used to check.
It was more visual. It was like,
Yeah,
yeah.
18.
Yeah, yeah,
she's
yeah.
it. And then you'd find someone to walk in with you, like a guy that was
Yeah.
looking older. And
I only
the trick.
ever once got asked for ID.
Well, I got asked for
Few weeks
ID on my
ago.
18th birthday, which is
I
ironic.
got
No
asked
way.
for ID 2 weeks ago when I was
Nice.
buying alcohol
Good
in
compliment.
Lidl. Yeah,
That's good.
I thought the guy was taking the piss. I had to show it.
The thing about that is because I'd like done gigs and stuff, so I won't start naming venues. But like,
Dude, go on, name them. We're going to call them
no,
off.
but it's I've always noticed it's a venue by venue place. It's a bouncer by bouncer. It's not even a venue. So it's some bouncers like will just be like, I've seen a lad, they just want on the camera someone showing a card. I've seen someone hand a train ticket and be your mom, go on. He just said to him, like, they do this the whole time, like they say, just show me some sort of card for the camera, and then that's all they want. And I've seen a lad hand him a train ticket and letting him in and stuff.
Nice.
But most venues don't do that anymore, but you have those still places you can get into.
And up in the pod then, did you think I'm going to be in this industry and the event industry and all that?
Yeah, well, it was less so the kind of music industry. It was more I wanted to work in TV. So I wanted to be a presenter. Ever since actually Scratch Saturday came to Thurles. They came to Thurles. I was on that.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I was there, yeah.
I was on it.
Scratch?
It was literally a Saturday morning show called Scratch Saturday, and it was like, it had your man, what was that? The animal. Was it Alf? Not Alf, Padjo?
Padjo's Junk Box.
Oh,
Padjo,
yeah.
And it was literally all these kind of young presenters that came down and they did a soapbox, and it was like, they asked me to talk about supermodels or some other kind of topic.
Yeah.
And ever since that, I guess it was all the cameras and all they had all the equipment, and I remember thinking, oh my God, this is what I want to do. Yeah.
Magic.
That's
big
class.
time. So it was TV really that I wanted
What
to kind of go
age
into.
were you then?
Oh,
Sinead?
like 14, 15 when they came to Thurles, and then I guess that was in my head from after that. It was
that in the
always,
premiere? No.
Yeah, it was,
So it was like nearly next door to your place.
yeah, we were. I'm as they call it, a square kid, an original square kid. I was raised in Ross Street.
No way.
So yeah, there was a few of us that we called ourselves the square kids. But our playground was the CBS. We'd sneak in through the railings, and I look at the railings now and go, "How the hell did we get through them?" But we did.
Yeah, that's mad.
And that was our garden, I guess. So yeah, that was I guess beside us was the Premier Hall, and they had Scratch Saturday, and it was from then I guess I really wanted to do TV. And so it was kind of, that was the aim really. And I think I was aiming to do communications in DIT, but it was, the points were way too high for me. Well, not for me, but more that I had other things on my mind.
Yeah, more important things.
Not studying for the Leaving Cert was the main thing. It was hanging around and doing things I shouldn't
Squeezing
be doing.
through railings.
Exactly. I was a bit of a wild child, I must say.
And TV is in the family anyway with Brendan, and he was doing a lot of things at that time, wasn't he? What was it?
Well, my dad's first cousin is Brendan Gleeson, and I actually met Brendan for the first time. Kind of a sad story in ways. My father had passed away when I was young, and he came to the funeral, and he was my dad's first cousin. So he came to the funeral in the Munster Hotel, I remember, and he had been in Glenroe at the time, which we all know was major. Like, remember, it was Where in the World, 8:30. Glenroe, bed.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're the same age. We understand. That was the routine.
I still get the feeling, if I hear that tune from Glenroe, my heart starts to palpitate.
Shit,
I've no
time.
homework done. I'm dead in the morning.
That's funny.
And would I get time to copy it on the way in?
That is it. Yeah, exactly.
So Brendan was in Glenroe, which all of Ireland watched.
Everyone watched Glenroe. And so at the funeral, I approached him like no shame. I mean, I obviously had a bit of kind of, I don't know, baldness then. Even at 10, I went up and I introduced myself. And then it was a couple of years later, because I wanted to get into TV, I thought he had been in Braveheart at the time. And I just rang him up. I just got the number out of my mother's phone book and rang him up and explained again who I was. And he remembered me. And I remember him saying, I said, look, I want to get into TV. I love your advice. And he said, okay, I'll come down to you. Oh no, sorry. He actually said, why don't you come up to the set? We're filming Braveheart at the moment. And imagine a Thurles 15-year-old doing that. You're like,
where was the set for Braveheart?
It was in the Curragh.
Ardmore, was it? Or Curragh?
Well, there was bits of both,
Yeah.
I didn't even know
across.
any of it was shot there.
Yeah.
That's mad.
And so I was delighted. He was like, come on up and you can, I'll show you around. So I was absolutely thrilled. And then literally a half an hour later, he rang me to say, actually, no, I've decided to come down to Thurles instead. And oh my God, my heart sank. My mother was delighted. She was out with the camcorder as he was walking in. Oh my God.
That's mad.
Yeah. So it was kind of from then his big advice to me at the time was get your degree, just get your education, because you can always fall back. And that's what he did. He was a school teacher and he'd been in the job a few years before he went back to acting. Went into acting. I think he went into acting at like 35. So that was what he said, just get your education first. So I kind of steered then into sort of TV, and I did a course in Ballyfermot, presentation and performance media was the title. I don't think it's still going, but funny enough, I actually, from attending that course, there was so many wannabe presenters that
Yeah.
I ended up like kind of coming back into my shell, and it was like this bubbly person wasn't the bubbly person anymore because there was so many other bubbly persons trying to fight for it.
Yeah.
So I kind of stepped away from
Is
the
that
TV.
really exhausting?
It was exhausting.
Yeah.
And it was just a bit too much. Actually, I went to college with, just had a thought, was the guy from the Hardy books, the red-haired fella? Yeah.
Owen
from
Colgan.
Swinford,
Or no, what's Eddie Durkin?
No.
Owen
Is Eddie
Colgan.
Durkin the redhead guy?
They're both redhead,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, he was from Manchester / Mail.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
right.
he was in my class.
Yeah.
So that's where he kind of started, was that course as well.
Manchester / Mayo.
I know.
How do people?
Was
that
it
always
I think it's either
amazes
Liverpool
me.
or Manchester, but yeah, I know. I think his mother is from UK and the father
Yeah,
is
he
Mayo.
kind of looks like he's half from Liverpool or
He does, doesn't he? He has a
whatever.
big Irish
yeah.
head.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so that was kind of where I sort of was going to do the TV stuff, and then I went to Electric Picnic. I was on a bit of a career, so I didn't know where I was going to go after the TV, and I came back to Thurles. I worked in Malays. Shout out to Malays served many a lad around this town and listened to many a story, I must say.
Yeah,
and that was definitely an experience. I worked there for probably a year, and then I kind of was in this limbo, I guess.
Yeah.
And I remember my friend at the time.
I remember you working there. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I came back to Thurles first from England. Yeah.
I was there. I just did the kind of daytime or the week time during the week shift.
Yeah.
But then I remember one of my friends at the time said, "Come over there's some gig on in Stradbally. We don't know what it is."
Was this back when it was just starting kind of thing?
First year.
Oh, it was the first year.
2004. I was 23. I don't count that up. But it was a very last minute thing. I think the night before, it was on a Sunday or maybe it was a Saturday, and someone said, "Will we go up to this?" They just organised the bus. Didn't know anything about it, nothing. And I remember just walking around, and it was as amazing as it is now, but obviously it's a lot more built up now. But it had the body and soul, it had everything, and I'd never seen anything like that in my life.
Yeah,
I was like, whoa.
It's weird going to your first festival. It's like you're like it is like being on a different planet. Like so bizarre.
Especially when it was because it was the changeover of oxygen to this kind of where it wasn't just about the music, it was about the experiences. It was now like I came from been raised in the Féile. I mean we lived like I said in Rossa Street. Like our garden was a campsite. My mother turned the front kitchen into a restaurant. I mean it was all of that. So I kind of grew up with that. Maybe it was in my blood from the beginning.
Entrepreneur, your mother, wasn't she?
Yeah, she
made
is,
all that stuff happen.
Yeah, she did. She's got a good kind of eye for business. Yeah, definitely. And she saw that opportunity. And again, it was a different time because now you couldn't turn your house into a restaurant. You'd have the health and safety officers. Then everybody tried to make money from the Féile, and they did. And it was it was a great time. But obviously, it was maybe something in there that I didn't realize was in there, like that kind of guided me towards this. But definitely, the Electric Picnic was the first time I said, "Oh my God, I need to be involved in something like this."
Yeah.
What do you say? How am I going to do this? How am I going to?
Yeah. So it was like, how am I going to how is this? I'm going to make this happen. And I guess I've always been the kind of person where it was never a case of like I couldn't do it. It was very much, why wouldn't I do it?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
That
just
came
like
from my mother, 100%.
Yeah.
Because she always had this thing of if you want something hard enough, you can get it. Now I never really knew what that meant, but I think now looking back, it means that like anybody can do whatever they want.
But
now within reason. I mean, I'm not going to turn around and say I want to be a surgeon and I'm going to be a surgeon. You obviously have to put the steps into place. But
oh yeah, of course. But I'm the same. Like if I decide something, like it's happening. But then it's just a case of okay, I've already been in the end goal and seen it happen. Now I just have to go backwards and see.
Yeah,
it. Now,
it's kind of manifestation, I suppose.
Yeah, but in a very step by step sort of understandable process to people. Like, and I think that's what people talk about manifestation. They always like sort of go from one to the end and say I just did it, but like you have to actually tell people the steps you did because everyone does steps.
Yeah,
and like it's just about reverse engineering the end goal, and then like you can then it's just So
that's it, visualization. I suppose.
How do we do the steps?
Well, how I did the steps was basically I decided I'd been living in Dublin at the time. I'd just moved up and I started going out to the Temple Bar Music Centre, which was a big venue at the time.
Love that place.
Yeah, and I just got to know there was a guy that was running it, and I just again the kind of my motto in life was then and is now like all they can say is no. Or like better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I've lived my life like that, because like I said, if you don't ask, you don't get. You know, that kind of way.
If someone says no, how do you feel in that moment? Like, what's the
Well, in my mind, it's like, yeah, right. But,
yeah.
You know, and then I'm thinking, how am I going to get around this? You know, or an old boss.
They really mean yes, is what you hear.
Really, exactly. Well, I remember an old boss saying to me, "There's never any problems, only solutions." And that is true. It's like you have to just find another way of approaching it.
I love hearing no. There's so
I know. It kind of drives you.
Yeah,
really, it does.
I love it. Like, it's so good.
So that's kind of. I went up to the music centre and asked. I just went straight up to the guy that runs it, Dave Allen. He's still there now. Still great friends with him. And I just asked him for a week's work experience.
That's class.
Yeah, and he took me on. And from there, I met another guy.
That was clever. A week's work. It's the thin end of the wedge.
Yeah, exactly. And he's thinking, this poor young one. You know, she's up from the country. Let her off. You know, that kind of way. Yeah. But I suppose I showed him something there that I was enthusiastic and I was eager to learn. And through that, because they were kind of it was a venue that had a lot of bands coming in. There was a lot of tour managers coming in, and I at one stage was working in the box office, just taking tickets, like doing something very just very normal, I guess. And I seized the opportunity. This guy was he wasn't even looking for anyone. I was like, "Are you looking for someone?" And he was like, kind of making him think that he needed someone, but he didn't really. But turned out he was then Sinead O'Connor's tour manager, and also Clannad and lots of other Irish artists. So Sinead O'Connor was my first boss, technically, in music.
That's mad.
Yeah, which is quite handy when you don't live in Ireland and you're trying to explain how to say your name.
Yeah.
And if they say like, "Oh, how do you say your name?" I say Sinead O'Connor, and then they go, "Oh," and I go, "Yeah, she was my first boss in music." She was.
That's mad.
And that was really cool. But it was through then there was lots of other steps, I guess. Once I got into that world, then it was like all about who you know, really, unfortunately.
It still is.
It is. It is. But
I buzz off that too.
Yeah.
Because then it's just
to infiltrate the system. Trust me.
I think people get really like bogged down by it's who you know because you don't know them, but that doesn't mean you can't get to know them, and that's the fun 100%. Part. It's like it's like a game of chess or something, trying to meet these people. I love it. Well,
that's exactly it, and it's like it comes back to the whole thing of just being brave. Like, I mean, I was thinking about it coming down here. Like, what advice would I give? And really, it's not to have self belief and think, why wouldn't I be here? You know, like someone has to. It's like saying, like, you know, any of the leaders or the people that make really, you know, a lot of money in the world, they come from a lot of times nothing. And generally people that actually don't have much are the ones that tend to thrive because they haven't been handed everything, you know. I've had a job since, I can ask my mother, we've all had to have jobs since we were 15, you know. If you want to buy that top, you had to earn it, you know. Absolutely everything else when it came to education or grinds or whatever, but if you wanted to go drinking or buy the new top, you're buying it yourself. So I've always had to work hard for what I got. But the main thing I'd say is definitely to don't take no for an answer. And self-belief and just having the balls really to just go for it. Because once you're in and you actually are good at it, you will get hired and hired and hired. I mean, there's lads there that are working that will just get gigs after gigs after gigs because of their reputation. You know what I mean? But through that, anyway, I ended up meeting a guy who was the tour manager of BDI, which was Liam Gallagher, Lily Allen, Chemical Brothers. I toured around Germany with the Chemical Brothers, which was
mad.
I clicked. I don't know if you're familiar with the Chemical Brothers show.
It's class.
My job was to click that goddamn screen.
Wow, that
is like, because I would have done anything.
I didn't know that was you.
That was me. I'm on the credits. I mean, you see, I would have done anything, and like, you had to kind of assess the situation. Like, am I getting for that one in particular? I didn't get paid, but I got all my travel and my expenses paid. So you have to weigh it up to like, because on your CV, no one cares if you got paid for that gig. It's just on your CV. So like, you have to kind of weigh those situations up. Is it going to be worth my CV career, or is it like? And I mean, a lot of the times with this industry, you would have to do a lot of like groundwork for free, which is fair because I mean, if you're coming out of college or you're even not coming out of college like me, I didn't study that in college. You need to kind of earn your stripes, I guess.
Exactly.
So I mean, but I always remember getting advice from a guy. Very heavily involved in the industry. He said, if you get paid once you start getting paid, never go back to not getting paid unless it's something that is going to bring you up.
And come here, how did Liam Gallagher thing come about?
Liam Gallagher was again through the Sinead O'Connor tour manager. I met the BDI's tour manager, who also was the tour manager for all of those.
BDI?
BDI was like Liam Gallagher's attempt after Oasis broke up. Which was quite interesting anyway, you know, just to see the craziness of wherever he goes. I mean, there was guys that were turning up at the Olympia, like lookalikes, Liam Gallagher lookalikes.
What?
It was gas. And they'd be there all day waiting for him, and you just kind of open the door. And you'd be like,
And what would they say? What would you
Like,
say?
hoping
Well,
to get a-
hi
to get a
Liam,
look
it's
of him.
you.
Yeah, I know.
That's so mad.
Stories about like Liam, and like there was. I remember he had a stalker in. We did a show in what was the place? A place in London, and one of his stalkers turned up, and I was given specific advice. I was printed out a photo, and they handed it to me and said, "You need to watch out for this lady. She's in the building apparently."
All right.
So I was walking around looking for her, and she had turned up in his house in London. She had climbed that night. She climbed up onto the balcony to try and get in to see him. Like, I mean, who wants to see someone? Imagine, like,
That's mad.
the girl that wants to see her. She's hanging off the balcony. And like, see her. Yeah. And he's like, "No, I'm gone home." But yeah, no, like I guess once you get that to that level.
And did you meet her?
I didn't meet her, no,
Oh, wow.
because she had been escorted by the
Lovely.
time I got around.
Wait, yeah. Did he buzz off that? Did he? I imagine.
See, where it all happened was actually quite funny. There was he had, one of his first songs in BDI was
About her.
It was called a 4-letter word, I think it was called. And at the beginning of the song, he would always look into the crowd, no one, and go, "This one's for you," and point. And she thought that at the gig
her.
that was her. And from then, she developed this.
Oh,
He really
shit.
is talking to me.
That's
She would
mad.
go around to every gig, literally follow him around the place.
You're
So,
looking
yeah,
for
you
my
can imagine-
psychiatric opinion.
Haley's a psychiatrist.
What, have you?
I'm a psychiatrist, yeah.
Oh, well,
That's
what do you
it.
think? What's the
No,
verdict?
no comment. I can't diagnose people from anecdotes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
making me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, you see, I guess, I don't know. I think there's a few fanatics anyway. He definitely has a few fanatics.
Are you a Liam Gallagher fan?
No. No. I mean, I'm not like,
I know,
obviously.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I do think
you know,
he gets a
grew up
bad
with
rep.
him.
Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I got
Yeah.
on really well with him. Simply, I think, was because his mother's from Mayo, and so was mine.
Yeah.
And we also bonded over the fact that we were both forced to climb Crowpatrick twice.
Oh, wow.
Twice.
Class.
Yeah, so
No
that
way.
was a big
Wait,
thing.
you climbed
So you-
Crowpatrick.
Twice.
Yeah.
That's mad.
And you
I
could
know.
talk about Mayo.
And we could talk about Mayo, and actually got on really well with the older brother,
Paul.
Paul, who's way more Irish than the other two,
Yeah.
because he was kind of think he was born in Ireland, and then he's very much into the GAA and all that kind of stuff. Where
God,
the other
that's
two see
mad.
themselves as English,
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
but they would be very proud of their Irish roots as well. You know,
Cool.
And
Did
did
you
you?
have- oh,
sorry, no, go on.
Did you meet Lily Allen?
Yes.
You said, did you?
yeah, she was lovely.
She's brilliant.
Yeah. She
She's
was very nice,
hilarious.
very normal actually. She
Yeah.
was actually she was pregnant at the time, and I remember getting her to have toast because she had morning sickness, and she was just very normal. Like she had,
Yeah.
that was at the Big Chill in somewhere in England. I had done a couple of dates with her, but it was like very much like on a freelance kind of basis, you know, like you just be called up and you go off and do. I was in production, so it was you'd be called up to whatever festivals that particular artist was playing at.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What's the most amount of responsibility you've ever had thrown on you at once? Nearly paralyzing responsibility.
Paralyzing. I suppose the biggest.
It wasn't getting Lily Allen to eat toast.
No, that was quite easy actually. Yeah, that was very easy. No, the biggest thing I suppose was I was the production manager for a gig in the RDS, and I had 3 halls that I had to run myself.
Okay.
So that was a lot. But I mean, that was kind of after a few years later. That was only in the last 5 or 6 years. I got into kind of more coding, sort of the area of coding. But it was like I was the event manager for a coding club called Coder Dojo.
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard of that.
So
Yeah.
they're global now,
Yeah,
and they had a
massive,
big
yeah.
event in the RDS, and so that's where I kind of moved into.
So when you say you got into coding, like the coding
I can't
itself,
code for
or
shit.
the events, okay.
I then organising
Okay,
this global
yeah.
event that had
Yeah.
kids coming all over the world, and that was,
That's
I guess,
mad.
the biggest venue that I had to run by myself.
yeah.
But there's been lots of different,
Was there ever earlier on, I suppose, in your career where there's just like that sort of like where someone gave you a responsibility that you weren't sure if you were at yet?
Oh, there was a lot of fake it till you make it.
Yeah,
moments
yeah,
that we
yeah.
said. Oh, that was constant. I mean,
Yeah.
because I hadn't done official formal training, I guess.
There's a wasp.
Oh,
Can
right there,
can
it's
we?
Just talk to him, Kieran.
Hey, please come back. Your episode is next week.
It's
Jeez, be careful.
it's a Liam Gallagher fan.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, that's the stalker transformed.
gosh,
That's what she's done now.
Really?
This is
Yeah.
how far she's gotten.
Oh, are you talking to him?
Um,
What are you saying?
very animal friendly around here. You chat to him. You don't leave him.
Yeah. Just open the window and just tell him to go visit.
can we maybe close the door? 'Cause
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, he's good.
disruption.
No, he's gone visiting
Disruption by
Medleys.
wildlife.
Sorry, you're asking me about what was the most, I guess.
Yeah,
Fake
like
it till
rad
you make it.
response. Yeah.
There was a lot of, there's been plenty of fake it till you make it, because I didn't go down the formal training route, which to be honest wasn't really a thing. I mean, this is 17 years ago now. So like going to college for events or music, unless you were doing something like sound engineering, which you actually had to learn about the technical side of things, it wasn't a big thing about to go to college. It was literally about learning from these outlads that were like there for years, these roadies that would take you on. But that's where you get the experience. So
But even what I do like about the events industry is actually still like that. Now there's all those like, if I don't know anyone that I know that's running a festival and stuff, like new festivals starting and successfully and starting nights and stuff like that, like none of them have done college or anything like that. That's what I'm saying. Like I think if you want to do it in the more like corporate events and stuff like that, there's a lot of, and to get up there and stuff, there's a lot more opportunity to get into work experience if you don't know anyone. But like I've seen so many people. The reason I really like the events industry is it's a case of actually you can start volunteering, and within 3 years you could be like
easily
managing
that's
stuff. Like,
where that's
it's
exactly
so cool,
where
like.
I would have started. It was like that, starting working for free, and then getting that responsibility, and then once you start getting paid, I could say,
But they want kinds of people. It's like a certain type of person, not a certain type of qualification.
This is it.
You know,
it's like,
you don't know that until you work with somebody, until somebody is there hands-on doing the job next to you.
Exactly. And I remember thinking like I wanted to get, maybe I should get some kind of qualification, and I signed up for an event management course in DIT, and I dropped out halfway through because, well, I found out that the head of the course had never organised an event in her life, and I had already I was also working at the time, so I was working in events but thinking I needed this qualification. In the end it was a waste of time because I was learning everything on the ground. The only way to learn, honestly, in this industry specifically, it is the only way.
Funny, some of the architecture stuff was like that as well.
Really, I would have thought that'd be more.
No, well, the university was I remember doing a PLC course, and this guy teaching us CAD, he was the craziest person I've ever met. And I remember going to England, and your man said, I'm drawing up stuff in CAD. And I said, I tried that once, it's so hard, isn't it? He goes, no, you just click the mouse and then just type the length of the line and press return. That's all you have to do. I was going, that's not, like, your man was shouting, screaming, coding at us, and he was reading the manual basically. He was reading the AutoCAD manual and shouting at us and getting very frustrated. And he made something that was really simple, really complicated.
And there's a sense of them like unaware themselves that, but there's also a big part I know that where they wanted to be, and not saying it does that, to be more complex because it validates them as individuals.
I would actually think that was the case, that they wanted to make it appear more complicated than it actually was.
I think as well, like teaching anything is very different from doing it. Like it really is, like there's always like an experiential component to everything, and
show and tell. Definitely. Well, definitely in the music industry. Like I said, unless you're going into the route of sound engineering, which in fairness, you could probably learn too, but I think there probably are more looking for qualifications in that, or lighting. Or
in Ireland, it's still like it's a sound engineer, and it's still definitely a case of like who you know and stuff like that. It's weird giving each other. I do actually like Ireland. Like there's a lot of who you know, but to me, I think that's better rather than the qualifications. Like even a sound engineer, like like I said, loads of friends who are sound engineers and stuff, like, and they they just get opportunities at small gigs and stuff like that. And the guys, there's not one of them I can name who didn't just randomly go up to another sound engineer and say, hey, can I get a hand? There's not one of them I could name like that hasn't done that, like who
Hey, come here, your present job sounds like a dream job that you can travel anywhere you want or whatever.
I suppose after the music stuff, I think I was, as much as I love the touring and all that, I always was kind of looking for that more stable job, just I guess for have a son, and I always wanted something that was a little bit more like a paycheck every month kind of thing. So after the events, I did a lot of other live events that were not music, more sports and things like that. But it all kind of culminated in me getting a job. Well, I actually got a job I moved to Amsterdam just before the pandemic. I escaped.
Brilliant.
Before
Amsterdam's one of my favourite cities.
It's gorgeous.
Is that where you're living now? Like
I literally was living there for the last year, and I am currently between Spain and I'm half thinking of going to Greece. But this is where it comes to the job, I guess. I had got a job in Amsterdam working on the Dutch Grand Prix, which was going to be my dream job, and then obviously pandemic times, it literally lost the job. So I was obviously in the events world, it was gone. Events jobs were just gone. So I kind of spent months and months like just applying every day, day and like really trying to keep my head up and, you know, like just keep myself busy. And I did a few courses just to keep busy, really. It was
Yeah.
This is when you were living in Amsterdam.
This was when I was living in Amsterdam. Yeah, I was living in the centre of Amsterdam, which was amazing, and just the surroundings, very aspirational.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Just
it's
like,
lovely.
You know, I think it's all about where you surround yourself as well. You know,
Definitely.
it makes you think, oh, I could have one of those canals.
Yeah, it really.
And in my mind, I have one already. It
Yeah.
just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Your environment
You know?
definitely inspires you or takes you down.
100%.
Can I come on holidays? Yeah.
Yeah, of course, anytime. But like when I used to look around and go like, just keep going. And then, I was literally decided I was going to leave Amsterdam just to save a few pounds, and I moved to Spain, moved to Tenerife. My mother told me that it was all year round sunshine. And I went over last January, and as I was leaving, it must be some serendipitous moment that as I was literally leaving Amsterdam, I got a phone call to say that I was offered this job that was going to be remote, and it is. So now I'm currently managing 20 marketing and event managers for Google. So
No way,
I
whoa,
basically
You
I don't
manage
actually
the manager.
do the events or marketing. I just make sure that they do.
Oh,
Brilliant.
that's sound.
Yeah. So
that's
and it's
class.
remote, and it'll always be remote. So
cool.
'cause
That's amazing.
yeah, so I can go anywhere. So I'm kind of that's why I'm home at the moment because it was my brother's 30th last week and
Mm.
catching up with the family and stuff like that. But it means I'll never have to be in an office. So
That's
for
class.
me, my son is raised and I'm in a position now where I can kind of go where I want.
He's heading into
So-
the office now, isn't he?
No, he's after getting a job remote as well.
Was
We
he?
won't
Fair
mention
play
his
to
name,
him.
he'll kill
Fair
me.
play to him.
But yeah, he is doing the same thing. So
Class.
we're both remote.
That's
So it's
amazing.
the two of us and the dog. and we
Freedom.
can go where we want.
Freedom. Yeah, that's class.
Is that so? Is that like throughout your career so far? Is that like is it only going up for you? Like,
It's only gone up,
That's
100%.
class.
Yeah, and it's like, I believe me, that pandemic, like it really did take a toll because
Yeah.
you know, it's trying to keep yourself motivated
Positive.
all the day. And I was very much like, how I kind of got through it was I made a schedule every day, and I was like, right, I'm going to learn Salesforce for half an hour. I'm going to learn this for a half an
Brilliant.
hour.
Yeah.
I'm going to read for a half an hour.
Yeah.
Search for jobs for another half an hour, and I was like done out like a
Because it's
like a job.
solution focused.
Yes.
You know, it's like, okay, I have this time. Like, what am I going to do with it?
Yeah, because
like,
it's very
how do I
easy
make
to
the
go
most of
down
it?
and get into a kind of a down state, especially
Yeah.
when you don't know when it's going to end. But
Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny, like, all of those jobs I applied for, like, I got nowhere with any of them. And
Yeah.
then it was a job I had applied for before the pandemic that had come back around. And actually, in fact, I had applied for a job in Google, and they had offered me a job in Google, but it fell apart because of the pandemic.
Okay,
And
right.
then, so a year later, then they came back to me and said things are opening up, but now I'm managing the girl that I would have been.
That's
So
mad.
She never left the job. I was meant to take her job, and she never left because of pandemic. She didn't want to take the risk of moving. She was going to move away, and so she stayed where she was. And then a year later, I'm now managing her. So that's how it kind of
That's
worked
mad.
out.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is she nice?
Lovely. And we already had a bit of a kind of because she actually interviewed me for her job because they wanted
Okay, yeah.
to replace her, like, you know. So yeah, it's funny how things work out. But yeah, I just kept my head up and like just kept the routine going, really.
Kept the faith.
With that
Kept
kind
the
of
faith.
with
Yeah.
those kind of jobs, like sure, when they obviously end, do you not panic about money? Like
Yes, and that's kind of reiterating the point about
You just
wanting
have
the
to-
stability, you know. Like that, it is either with the events world, especially if you're freelance, it's either
Yeah.
a feast or a famine. You know, you're
Yeah.
either touting for work or, you know, just on the breadline, basically. But then if
Yeah.
you're at the level of the guys, like some of the guys in there, like they have such a great reputation that they'll have back-to-back gigs. Now, this is pre-pandemic. I don't know how it's going to affect,
Yeah.
you know, how it's going to turn out. Like, I was thinking about it, even thinking about, you know, how you'd approach, say, if you wanted to start in the industry like I did. Will it be harder now? Will they be willing to take you on a free capacity, or will there be like health and safety issues, like where
Yeah.
they don't want to take on a guy for
know.
free, and then, you know, I don't know how it's going to work out in the
Yeah.
end. But, you know,
Remember, I started working for myself like in 2003, Barbie, when you came back here
Yeah.
as well. And remember, every year, like when I bought the house, I had mortgage to pay and all that. Every year I used to panic
Yeah.
and think, shit, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And but it would always just marry up by the end
Yeah,
of the
it
year.
kinda comes
Grand.
together.
And then you get tired of panicking after a while, don't you?
Yeah,
It
well,
just-
I've learned now in my almost, I'm not going to say the age, but I'm coming up to a very horrible age now.
Yeah, we don't.
You
know.
don't.
Same as me.
Yeah, I know, it's shit. Anyway, but one thing I've learned is that you can't control, don't get worried about the things you
You
can't
can't control. That's it. Yeah.
No.
So just do what you can. They're not allowed to shoot you.
No.
They're not. Sure, they're not.
No.
Okay.
Of course not. Yeah.
And you're in the best stage. It sounds like that you've ever
Yeah,
been.
it is.
Like
I
that's-
do feel like, you know, everything, kind of all of those little jobs that I've done over the years, even the job in Malays working with people,
Yeah.
it all contributes to where I am
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
Because now my job is where I literally all day talk to people and make sure they're okay and make sure that those managers are performing at their best. In
Yeah.
Google. So it's all been character building, I guess, all those little jobs over the years and bigger jobs or whatever. But it has all come to this, I guess.
Yeah, that's class. Are Google good to work for?
Yeah.
Or they sound like they all have had good reputation with employees. Probably the best company in the world I've ever heard of it.
Yeah. Which?
Like Google, I've always
yeah.
the reputation for
Yeah.
how they treat employees seems to be insane.
Yeah,
Really
they
good.
are. They are. I mean, I suppose they're at the top of their game, really.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of the offices, the infamous Google office, a lot of them are not going to let back to the office now, and just because of COVID and stuff like that. But I mean, if you've got Google on your CV, you're kind of sorted.
Yeah,
really.
that's mad.
It's one of
They're
them.
such a massive organisation as well. Like they're all over the place, aren't they? So
That's
once
it.
you're within that company,
It's and it's, you know what, it's kind of funny because I am a big believer in manifestation, because I remember when I worked for that Coda Dojo, that was the first kind of tech-ish company I worked for. I remember saying to myself, I'm going to work for Google one day. And
That's class.
It's funny how you do. It's the same as I said I was going to work at the Olympics. I worked at the Olympics. I said I was going to work for Dun and Dusted, a crowd over in London that did the closing ceremony of the Olympics. I said I was going to work for them. I did. So it's like you say you're going to do it. Like what you just said. You get the end goal first, and then you work backwards.
Yeah.
You think, how am I going to? Because that is what manifestation is. It's like putting the steps together to get.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I want to win the lotto, and you're going to win the lotto. It's like you steer your life in a way that's going to make it happen for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer in that. And even though I didn't know what manifestation was or what that word was, clearly I was doing it all along
all the
without
time,
even realizing. From a child, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
I want to do this. I want to do this.
But the funny thing is we're all like, every individual on the planet is manifesting every moment. Just in you saying like you accounting everything to Malays and stuff, you don't need to believe in manifestation in a sort of spiritual way. But like, okay, everyone can agree the word manifestation exists, and the definition of it and stuff like that is just to, a sort of bring about things, and for certain situations or events to have happened to bring on something. Like that's just what manifestation means. So like, everything, every moment, like anyone watching this right now has like literally only watching it because of every other thing they've done in their life. It's not a thing to do outside of what other people were doing or that. Like, yeah, we all, we're all like in the same world and stuff like that. But like for whatever situation we're in right now, it's due to every choice or every happening or every event that's occurred. Like, so when you know that, like, even I'll take this for as example, because I think it's a very vague thing, manifestation. Like this thing on the wall, like it's not done yet, and it's like the screws and stuff like that. But we were looking up like how to, and so this is a smaller level of this that's more understandable. We were looking up like, how do we get that done? It was like costing €1,000 or something, and I was like, fuck that. And I just like seen it in my head. I was like, okay, if I can see it on the head, if I can see it in my head on the wall, then why can't I put it on the wall? And it was just, so broke it back down, and that's a very small thing, of course. But like, all I'm saying is people do that with art all the time. They do it with music all the time. They do it all. So like now you can apply that to things you want to do in life. So if you say you want to do this painting, and then you can do that, well then say you want this job, and then break down, reverse engineer that, and like it's
like
really
as
possible.
you said, the painting. So say you are an artist.
Yeah.
You're clearly, you can't just say, okay, I want this painting. You want to go, right, how am I going to get to a level where I can paint like this? So
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to do a course in painting. I'm going to do this. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're going to get the steps together to get to that end goal.
Yeah.
I think as well, like if you decide upon something, you have something as your aim, as like your unconscious mind registers that. The way the unconscious mind works goes, oh, okay. And it's your conscious mind that often gets in the way. So the unconscious mind then lines you up. It picks little things and goes, oh, look, that's in line with what you said that we'd do. So we need to pay attention to that, and we'll follow the next clue, and we'll follow the next clue. So it's like the unconscious part of your mind gets you
and it's
to where you're going.
In the words of RuPaul, it's your inner saboteur that will get you, because it's the person, as you said,
the conscious mind that goes, no, you can't.
You can't do this.
No,
when I think when I was younger, and kind of actually even now, like, I've always had that kind of thing of like, that's not a problem. I'm definitely going to be able to get get this
That's
stuff
cool.
together. Yeah, and I don't know where it came from. Probably, like I said, my mother, I think, she was very much, can visualize something and then it happens.
Yeah.
She wouldn't even call that manifestation. She
Yeah,
wouldn't
most
use
people
that word.
yeah,
Would have
yeah.
a clue. But it was more of like, if you want something hard enough, you'll get it.
Exactly, yeah. And it's all to do with belief as well. Like that's the major thing I think a lot of people miss out. People will like use the argument, yeah, but I imagined this and it didn't. Yeah, but you didn't believe in it. You didn't like.
And
You
pick
have
the steps.
it's belief. Like
So we want to thank great granddad Gleeson for manifesting the studio for us.
Oh yeah, I believe, I'm living in my
what's the story with
family
that?
history. Or
Yeah.
something.
So I told you my aunt lived here. She told me when she was
So
old.
weird.
But I found a picture of her in the doorway as a baby.
That's funny,
So anyway, then I found out off her brother that what was the story when they came to Thurles first, that they rented this house off the Gleesons, and the Gleesons of Hall Street, and that they built the three of them. And just
I knew when I came in, it felt right.
You felt at home.
Yeah.
So thank you, great granddad
there you go.
Gleeson, for building. So obviously your great grandfather manifested, had a vision of Croig would come here one day, and he wanted to be what
That's it.
Is that what happened?
I think so. Yeah.
That's sound.
And then he
Appreciate
said,
that.
So and then you come here.
And it looks great. I must say.
Thanks.
And is that the same side of the family that's related to Brendan Gleeson?
Yeah.
So like Brendan Gleeson's relations have built us the studio.
Exactly.
That's wonderful.
There you go.
You hear that,
so
folks?
And Simon Gleeson.
Well, he would have spent a lot of time, because my father and himself and my father were first cousins. So he would come to Thurles for summer holidays.
Yeah,
and
that's
my
so
father
cool.
probably would have gone up to Dublin for his summer holidays. They would have swapped over or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he's very much connected to Thurles.
That's so cool.
Russell Street, really.
I've always heard people say stuff around that before, that he was from Thurles, or people would rumor, or that he had relations here. I didn't know that. That's the crack. Like that's mad.
And he's lovely now, as normal as you get.
Yeah, I seen that he wasn't he on the Late Show just with the fiddle or something recently?
Yeah, big
that
music
was so
family
cool.
thing.
I was like, oh, finally something on.
Don't you play the fiddle, or is your sister?
I used to play the trad flute. My sister
you
is
flute,
excellent.
yeah.
Is Anya, my sister Anya. She plays the accordion, and they have music school here in Thurles.
O'Donnell Music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so,
class.
yeah, no, they're great. They're big traddies.
Yeah.
I used to play the trad flute, but then again, I got distracted by the shenanigans around the town. Gave that up. The usual.
Yeah.
Didn't you have right kind of sessions over in your sister's pub? Was it?
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
class.
Anya had a pub there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it must be nearly 10
Square.
years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with great sessions.
Yeah,
Geez,
it's
that was great.
fabulous.
I love that.
Yeah.
It was brilliant because we'd some crap. We were to stay upstairs and
So cool
brilliant,
it was. Yeah.
Hey, throughout your life, of whether it's sessions and stuff like that, or festivals, or working with rowdy artists, what's the maddest thing you've ever? Because with someone, it's fun to ask this, someone who's been so involved in events and sessions or whatever. Like, what's the maddest thing you've ever experienced? That's like. Or seen someone do. Maybe I'm start talking about people who might be
now you've the filter going through the brain.
You see, this is where you've heard about like whatever happens on tour stays on tour,
exactly,
don't you?
Yeah.
Can't be saying.
Yeah.
No, I mean there's lots of different things. I think the one thing it wasn't a mad thing, but it's something I learned, and it's something I've even said in job interviews, where I got so excited by it was the first Longitude, and I was artist and guest coordinator, which really meant that I organised all the guest lists for all the artists and got them in and got them accredited. So it was quite a high profile job in the sense that I had a lot of responsibility and I had a lot of passes and there was a lot of money in my hands because I had the wristbands and I had all that stuff. And I had arrived on into Marley Park and I got so excited. There was just a couple of tents being put up and I took a photo of my access all areas pass.
Yeah.
What did I do when he put it up on Facebook?
Oh no!
And I had to talk to Melvin Ben himself.
No way.
Yeah. Go around and find him to apologise because literally what I had done there was I had basically created an opportunity for people to copy the path.
Yeah.
So literally, the way it was easy to do that. So I mean, I took it down pretty much straight away, but I'll never forget being so terrified.
What was Melvin Ben like when you told him?
He was, in fairness, see, this is another thing actually, and another bit of advice I would give you, like just hold your hands up and say, trying to do this thing where you're like, deny, it costs money to deny. So, and they will respect you a lot more if you. I went and found him. I didn't have to find him. I went and found him in his trailer, and I literally said, "Listen, it was an honest mistake. I got too excited, just like the way I'm telling you." And he said, "Look, it happens to the best of us." But for me, I was kicking myself. I thought, "Oh my God, I'm so unprofessional. How could I be so stupid?"
Yeah.
But it was just the pure excitement.
I know.
So I mean, lesson learned there. Just keep.
No,
I had I suppose it is similar in some ways. I was working in a psychiatric unit, an inpatient unit here in Ireland, and we all have like the master keys for like all of the things. And mine wasn't excitement, it was just exhaustion. But I lost the key.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'd had it to get in, and then it was gone. And I'd had it the night before, and I was thinking, shit. And I was going through my stuff, and I was exhausted, and I was panicking. And I had to go to my consultant, who was lovely, and say, I've lost my key.
What's that have to do?
And she was like, oh my God. And then she started panicking. She was like, God, it must be some way. We were going through everything. And then you have so many bags, like sometimes on your cart and stuff, and you're on call and all of this kind of thing. And then she said, did you check that bag with your computer in? And I was like, I would never put it in there. And she was like, but if you were rushing this morning.
Yeah.
And I'd already told like the secretary and things like that. I put my hand in the bottom of this bag, and there was the fucking key.
Oh God.
I nearly collapsed on the ground and relief. And I went running out to the that was excitement. And I was like, oh, my key, I have it.
But aren't you glad you went to her, because you would have continued?
That would have cost.
There you go.
God
It just costs
knows
money. And
how much? Like,
that's it. And another thing actually on that is just literally about like asking questions and not being afraid to ask questions, because I think people think when they get into a position like that, where they're working at Electric Picnic or working at whatever, and it's like, a big role or whatever, whether it's a big role or a small role, like never be afraid to ask questions, because you're not expected to know this stuff. You're not expected to know
100%.
it, and also they would be like, there's a saying, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Absolutely.
And there was quite a few young lads that were going in there like they thought they knew it all, and they had done one gig, and they ended up being counterproductive, because they just were running off doing things.
See, now you're managing them as well, and that's like,
and that's a whole other more money to do that. So
people remember you when you ask questions.
Yeah,
as well,
and enthusiasm as well. People love
the
that, and not thinking you know everything. You know, being humble.
People and when you're, it's because there's always in every industry you're going to meet people who are mean, but like when you're, I've never anyone that's like the top up, like the people who are most worried about asking questions they're always the soundest. They love sharing their knowledge, like the likes of Melvin, Ben and stuff like that. They'd absolutely, like, you know, if they're just running around stressed and stuff like that, you'd be able to read it and stuff. But like, yeah, like a lot of those people, most of them I'd say, are actually really sound and would love to like
help. They started somewhere themselves. Usually it's all, like I said, there is no kind of blueprint of how to do this. It's so they all know it. Somebody had to bring someone else on. You know, I'm actually example. I don't know if you know David Farah. Do you know Farah?
Yeah.
Farah was my little protege because I worked at I was the production manager of Camden Crawl, which was this festival in Dublin a couple of years ago, and he was just starting out, and I got him to come along and be a roadie. And look at him now; he's doing fantastic. So it's all, when I saw that opportunity where I could bring someone on, and I'm sure he'll do the same for someone else. And that's how it works.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, he's doing really cool stuff now as well.
Yeah, it's nice when you can share your knowledge with someone who's enthusiastic and who wants to learn. Like, it is good.
Yeah. It's funny. I do think it's, Jad, you're right though as well, like with Stays and Tour. If I don't think now that I'm doing a podcast, I can never get hired for doing tours. I will probably talk about it. So you're better off just not hiring me now. Just for, nobody hire me.
Would you talk about it? You would?
What?
Would you talk about
I would, so don't hire me. Okay? That's me out the window.
Tinfoil socks and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, there are stories I haven't told, so, and I won't. So.
They're about yourself, they're not too bad.
No, I'll tell stories about myself.
What?
Some of them are bad. He shouldn't tell these.
About myself, I'll tell
No, you shouldn't. Let me be that filter.
Yeah.
It's good to have one.
Yeah.
I would have got myself in a lot of trouble if I had a filter over the years. Good God.
Oh,
yeah. I love it though. Part of my thing is like, I love if I say something about my life that's authentic to me and something that I've experienced, even if it was like maybe I don't know, over the top or something, I don't know, that if I don't get a job because of that, my whole thing is I'd rather not get that job in the first place. So like I really love that. Like I always feel like protection. Like I started going to meetings and stuff with people who, I don't know, might be used to meeting people who were dressed nice for them and stuff like that. So I'd go in wearing the shorts. Like I'd go out my way to dress down, like, because I wanted to do, like, I wanted it to, if that was the first thing they noticed, there's no way I want to do anything with them. I don't care how successful they are. I don't think what they can do. If they care about me wearing shorts and I don't care to, like, I just believe it's like a weird way of sort of I don't know, like protection to direct me into the right place, like, which I love doing that.
Yeah, like a filter system. And actually, you mentioned, you'd said something there. It kind of struck something with me where you know, like if you're not the type of person that can go up and have the balls to just ask for something, you're not really that person for that industry, because it is a tough industry, and it was certainly a kind of a male-dominated industry when I was heavily involved, and you know, I was in a tour bus with 12 lads on my own, you know, like lots of banter, and if you can't take that banter, then you know you won't last very long. You don't have to be loud, and you don't have to be you know, that big bubbly character either, but you have to be able to take a lot of things on the chin, and and saying no to you, like as I always said, all you can do is ask, and all they can say is no. And if they say no, move on to the next thing. You know? But you have to be tough enough for that.
It's about being comfortable in yourself. Those kinds of things. Like, you don't have to change who you are and be that fake kind of, but it's just about knowing who you are and being comfortable in that, and then you'll always manage, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, there was guys there that now, like some of the lighting engineers, they're the quietest guys ever.
Yeah.
You know, but you still know that you wouldn't try and take the piss out of them either. You know, because they're so confident in their role that they know that no one else can do what they're doing. That comes with, you know.
And they know who they are. They don't feel any pressure to be any bravado or any kind of extroversion out there.
That's it.
The lighting guys are probably the best example of that. Yeah, all those lighting guys are like that.
They're always
everyone
quiet,
that does lights.
they're
just but
they know
lovely.
their shit, and especially at that level, they really knew their shit, you know.
Willing to hear a no and be okay with it, and say I don't know, are two of the biggest keys to getting forward.
To be able to say I don't know, is the big one, because a lot of people, like, they will. I know I mentioned fake it till you make it. There's an element of that, but there's also, when it comes to money and equipment and stuff, you need to say I don't know, and it's okay to not know, because you're not expected to know. Everything.
Yeah, I noticed that in my industry as well. People are afraid to say they don't know.
Yeah, because it's a sign of weakness or
they
something.
do, and there's huge...
and Irish people in general.
The Americans are much better at saying, I don't know. Can you explain that to me?
Well, I find it a lot with this job in particular, because they're obviously the managers themselves are working for Google, and you know there's a lot of pressure in there. And you know, when they start, I always say, you know, don't be afraid to ask, because the managers themselves, they would prefer you did, because if they think that you're off there, you know, just blind leading the blind, that's going to cost a lot of money. So so it's not a sign of weakness that you don't know, because yes, you could be qualified in whatever you're qualified in, and you deserve to be there, but you're not going to know the systems of Google, so you have to ask. You're not expected to know them.
And those people, the only reason they're in the positions they're in is because they understand people really well, and like, you know, they have patience for that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
I look at Grenfell Towers. I know it's a very tragic thing, but like the whole country and a lot of England and Ireland's covered with something similar, because people were afraid to say I don't know.
Imagine.
What was the towers?
Cladding, isn't it?
Cladding,
What happened in the towers?
The Grenfell Towers. Grenfell Towers.
Grenfell Towers.
Yeah.
Were you hiding behind a rock or something?
I was probably not born.
No, this was only 2 years ago or something.
Right.
Multi-story building.
Do you know about this, Stevie?
London.
Everyone.
Right. Okay. So
massive disaster.
it's some parallel universe. I have no idea what's not talking about.
Can you imagine how many people
what is going on? I'm freaked out.
How many people that went in front of and nobody said, actually, can somebody explain that to me? Because that's what I would say if I was involved in that job.
It's the same thing in medicine, because the consultants, particularly in Ireland, way more than anywhere else that I've worked, they're dictators, some of them, you know, some of them, but like, and so more junior ranks, they won't ask, they won't comment, they won't say, and that's how you get mishaps and things going wrong.
And as you mentioned, Irish people are, because I've worked with the Dutch, and we, you know, the Dutch are known to be direct.
And
because I work in events, I am direct. I have to be, otherwise it's waste time. So there's that balance between being Irish, which is like, oh no, I don't want like no conflict or no.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying all Irish people are like that, but in general, we're known to be a lot more kind of agreeable is the word. And then you've got the Dutch, who literally will like tell you exactly how it is, to the point of, are they being rude? But like, you can't take it that way. I know. So if you can find yourself in between,
I think that's that's the top thing. Like,
if you can be straightforward and without being rude, because it'll get you nowhere if you're too Irish about it. That's you get nowhere in any industry if you're like that.
And I've never learnt anything that I couldn't explain to anybody. Like, nothing is that complicated. Really.
It's just,
so when they start talking, well, what about, you know, they're winging it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pretending it's really complicated.
That's what Alan Watts said. Like, you know, living in the backwardsness of the world. He said we should really be living. He said in place. He said intelligence is intelligent. We like see intelligence as everything that we're calling intelligence now is, we're calling intelligent people who are making simple things complex, rather than calling the people intelligent who are the people making complex things simple. That's real intelligence, making something that's complex
100%.
simple.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said earlier, like sometimes people try to be complicated because they know they want to be indispensable to their roles. If they explain it, a lot of times, they don't want to give away too much because then all of a sudden I could do your job too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot.
Mad,
Everybody could do everyone else's job in a way. And,
I mean, now YouTube is so
it is
of anything now.
I love that. I love the kind of democratic nature of the internet.
Yeah.
That like literally it's opened up the world,
Yeah.
and they can ask those questions and say, "Well, I don't think so." Or
Yeah.
whatever. You might see, although it probably drives you mad in your job, does it? No. In medicine, no, it's good.
It's probably not the type that you could learn. I don't think you could learn your job now on YouTube somehow.
Yeah. No.
Surgery and
No. But like, I mean, I love it just when anything gets demystified instead of takes all the kind of power away, because you know, people should be able to do more for themselves, and if you can, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
That's you know, that's how you kind of move society forward and get better communities and stuff, is when people know more and feel confident enough to do more. So you know, I think it's
100%.
I think it's all good.
Very good.
Is there anyone that you're still in touch with, like anybody that you would have worked with that would have been kind of...
Well, a lot of the guys, like I actually got on really well with the crew of a lot of those tours I did, and I would still be friends with them, you know, I still connected with them on Facebook, and if I was in their town, we'd meet up for a drink or whatever.
Cool.
But I mean, in fairness, I kind of landed in the industry when social media was starting off, I guess, like 17 years ago. So we were able to keep connected all the time. Whereas before, I guess it would have been a bit different. But I mean, I still keep in touch with a lot of those guys, and it's one of them things. I guess because I'm kind of steering away from that industry now. I'm happy to now pass the torch on to others. You know, it was a weird thing before where you'd almost be afraid to tell people too much in case they were coming for you. You know what I mean? The typical Irish thing as well. You're like, you know, don't give too much away, or else they'll be following the path of how I did it. Whereas now I'm just so happy to be able to help people out. You know what I mean? And try and give guidance. You know.
It's good that you have kept in touch, because it is quite a mobile industry. You know, and you can feel quite alone in those kinds of things. So
Definitely.
to still have that sort of base of connection, and that is really good.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're on the road like that and you're spending like 24 hours with these people, it's kind of it's hard not to bond with them, and
It can be hard not to hate some of them as well.
Oh yeah, you can definitely do that, right? Yeah, there was a lot of like holding my tongue, you know, and like counting to 10, as they say.
Nine habits and stuff.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of farts in the tour bus. I mean, the tour bus, I have to say, was the best sleep of my life, apart from the farting. But because you're being rocked like a
really
Lovely,
because you're just in there and like
sleeping on chains as well.
Yeah, same on the train as well. You kind of fall asleep and then wake up and you're there, and it's like the best night's sleep. Yeah, because you're just being rocked over and back. Yeah.
So
that's mad. That's savage.
It's like the modern equivalent of the circus, isn't it? Joining the circus. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
But it's hard work and like exhaustion. Like, you know, you're burning the candle at both ends and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I felt like I did enough of it to be able to get other jobs from it. So I was able to have those jobs to put on my CV that I only had to do it for maybe 10 years, and then it led to.
Cool. So a 15-year-old watching this now wants to join the circus. What do they do?
15-year-old, if you wanted to do music, I would say literally follow the same path and go to your local like venue that's doing gigs and just ask for that work experience, because it will give you the confidence to get to the next step and say, well, I've done a couple of months here, I've done weeks here. It's about building up your resume, really. And with events and music, it's all about a gig by gig. You know, you're not going to it'll be very hard to find a job, a full-time position in that world, you know, so get experience. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to take rejection, because it's not rejection, it's just the right time.
It's a numbers game,
right time. Yeah, exactly.
You have to get enough of rejections before you get that golden job.
Is it. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, just be enthusiastic and
embrace the rejection.
Embrace the rejection. Just turn it into a positive.
Some of those rejections were literally like the biggest things biggest successes in my life are actually the things that failed, and like genuinely, like at the time it was like sad that thing didn't happen. I'm like, Oh my God, I literally there's one thing I wake up every day, an event we were supposed to do that didn't happen. I swear to God, I wake up every day saying thank God that didn't happen. Because like
everything happens for a reason,
everything's
as
on
they
the
say.
right place. Like, and God knows what could have happened if they did say and it's just like, I know it's hard to say that at the time, but just there's a sense of trusting in that.
Yeah, and the biggest one is better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I tell that to everyone because literally,
that's cool.
like, just go for it. And as I said, all they can say is no.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Cool. That's perfect. We'll finish up now anyway. Thanks a million for coming on.
No bother.
That was a class
Thanks
conversation.
very much, and thanks for the studio.
Yeah.
Thanks, great granddad.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Okay,
And,
go to bed now, people.
Yeah, thanks a million to everyone for watching and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button down below. It's a red one. For those of you who are unsure, the subscribe actually doesn't cost money. I know back in the day when you buy subscriptions to magazines that you would actually, in fact, have to pay money. But this is red button down there is free. You'll get no viruses. It's youtube.com. It's owned by Google, a wonderful company.
Employing Thurles people.
Yeah, exactly. So hit that subscribe button. Support Thurles, Sinead, us, and Google.
Keep me fed,
all in
guys.
that one
Keep me
button. Cool. Right, thanks a million for watching and bye.
Bye.